So I want to talk about the power of plant medicines. It's just, they're revolutionary, and I'm going to talk about them in what happened to me, which was insane. I had no idea. I started using them about 5 years ago, after having had this experience after many years of meditation. I had this big Kundalini opening experience, and I had this very specific dream that said, you know, there's a monster in your attic, you got to deal with it. And so for some reason I ended up meeting this woman in Costa Rica who had done it, and I knew nothing about ayahuasca at the time. And so, I mean, I assumed my life was okay. I mean, I was in New York, you know, I'd grown up in a pretty middle-class situation. I mean, I was married, divorced, whatever, but I didn't come from the projects. I wasn't kind of downtrodden, or, you know, in that sort of like kind of place of struggle. I grew up in a pretty comfortable home, you know, trips to Spain, etc. And so how could there possibly, you know, be anything that serious? But there was, and it was huge, and I had no idea. And when I thought about my childhood, I always thought like it was a bit of a scramble. I didn't really understand very much. It was kind of dark. I just remember that there was no real innocence. So there was we were adults very quickly. But I knew I had a dad that was really on me all the time to do well, to be successful, and just this and I was very scared of him. He was always very angry, and it was this kind of bullying, kind of macho Spanish, and it was kind of weird. He was a bit of a creep, actually. But again, I didn't think, you know, I think I assumed I had all these possibilities. I was from Spain, I grew up in London, I was in New York. It's like the typical, you know, it's okay, I went to design, whatever. So I knew there was something to do with my dad, and I didn't quite understand what it was. I thought, oh, it's this kind of like he was always on me, and I always had to fulfill his ambition, and there was this kind of like I had to succeed, this kind of like this constant struggle to do well. And I thought, well, it's just perhaps due to the fact that he came from a little village, and therefore he wanted what he didn't have, and, you know, just kind of this kind of more kind of idyllic romantic thing. Well, what what I kept so fucking hidden was so gross and so disgusting and so vile that to tear it down, what I realized was there's no way in a million years that I would be able to tear this shit up. And in my first ayahuasca ceremonies, there were 5 of them, there was this big exorcism where there was this clear kind of separation of energies between my father and me. And again, I had no real clue. When I got back from ceremonies in New York, and I used to meditate, but now I was having, you know, kind of ayahuasca ceremonies every day at home, I got to realize that there was abuse, there was sexual abuse. When I returned to do more ayahuasca, I realized not only was I sexually abused, but I was sold to other men to be abused. So it's huge. This medicine is unbelievable. I had built this whole armor. I had built this whole persona, 10 zillion identities. I'd made up all these stories. I mean, I had not a clue. I'd made up all these stories about this family that was a complete lie. I mean, the genius of creativity in our brains and the way that evolution wants to survive is so powerful, but I had layers and layers and layers of stories to refuse the truth, but I was carrying like a fucking nuclear bomb of shit that if I had not had gone and done ayahuasca, God knows I would be smothered in some awful cancer or some horrific thing, because it literally owned me. And that energy and that person that I built, that armor, every day was coming out in ceremony. I thought it was spirits, but no, it was this whole framework of energy I had built to basically refuse the truth. And in ceremony, what I saw I mean, it was so, well, I'm not going to go through all the ceremonies because they were so unbelievable. But literally, this man, my father, had actually sort of stalked out my mother so he could get to her family because they had some money and he could get a position. And then he went to London and he used me when they had little money, no money, he pimped me out to make money when I was like 3, 4, 5, to men, to be sexually abused because he didn't have a lot of money. And I had completely, and he had basically seduced me into believing that this was, you know, for the good of the family and that I had to do this so he put the whole responsibility of this family on the little toddler. I mean, this piece of evil, I had no idea. And he had done it in such a disgusting way that he'd kind of like involved me in kind of saving this family. And I also had images of him beating the shit out of us and just this, it was like literally from like the depths of horror and hell. I had smothered this shit with this whole persona so that in my little brain it was like, oh, I've got to save my dad, I've got to save this family. And I was completely shut down emotionally, like I had no emotion. So what I'd realized my whole life, I was in total captivity. I was in a vault. I did think I did all these things, but I didn't. It was all driven by this piece of evil. And he was basically, everybody was a cash cow to him. My mother was a cash cow. I was a cash cow. He used her to get to her family. And then he used me to try to get him out of being being basically part of her brother's family. So, you know, because he was an employee of theirs, so to speak. And that's why he put so much pressure on me, and he bullied me, and he wanted me to be successful because he was just a big piece of lazy, evil creep. And it's just so disgusting. And had it not have been for this incredible plant medicine, I mean, fuck, 5 years, I mean, every day giving me downloads, little by little. It's like scraping a cave with a toothbrush. She's been giving me information and love and support, and it's phenomenal. She's literally torn me down. And there's huge terror for the child, right? I mean, the child is terrified. And so the structure, the bigger the terror, the bigger the structure. And for anyone who says, oh, take responsibility, I'm going to tell you something. If you're a toddler and you have a 150-foot wave coming down on you, I'm sorry, you don't negotiate, okay? So I'm sorry, I can't take responsibility for that child. I can now, but she was so immersed in that terror and the ability to kind of build a story so that she could survive. Kudos to her. But the tearing down of that ego, the tearing down of that massive identity, of that complete fucking lie, it was a complete fucking lie, has been huge. And what I've learned is that this whole spiritual blah blah thing, no, it's everything. Like, hardcore reality is God. Unfortunately, that evil is also God. So there is no place to hide, and there is no one that's going to save you, and there is nothing. You have to do the work. And the thing about the great ayahuasca is that she will open you up. I mean, I asked for everything back. I said, I want to know everything. I want to face everything. And she said, you do? Right, I'm going to show you. But she has helped me every single day to be able to integrate and to really, she couldn't have just shown all this to me like in here in a platter. She, little by little, has been allowed me to really acknowledge and confront and see the horror, a pure fucking horror of what was done. And do I have forgiveness? Absolutely not. Do I have compassion? Absolutely not. Perhaps one day, but right now, the amount of rage and anger that I've carried and I couldn't express, I had no idea was in me. I've finally been able to let out. And this whole being nice thing was simply the only thing I could be. Every other emotion was completely paralyzed, warped, didn't exist. So nice was not who I was. Nice was a defense mechanism against death. Yes, I'm nice, but I'm also pissed off, and I can be a zillion different things now, because another thing that she gave me back was the technology of feelings. I can finally feel everything. So if you can't feel, you can't negotiate anything. You can't make a decision if you don't really know what's going on. If you're so paralyzed and you're so shut down that all you can do is, oh, I'm gonna be nice because I might fucking die. That is not being alive. And I just don't know how I can thank this incredible plant medicine. There's no way I would have gotten here. The shrink with myself, no. Never. It's never gonna happen. These things that we hide are huge. I can't tell you how many spirits, how much stuff has come through me in the last 5 years just to unlock and dismantle and get to the truth of this filth that I had accommodated, legitimized, protected, and I was, he had drowned me on arrival, and I had no choice but to submit and invent a story, an identity, so that I wouldn't die. And if it's happened to me, there's a whole bunch of people out there it's happened to. So if you're uncomfortable, you know that it's something not quite right, your fucking life is blown up, there's shit going down. And as far as I'm concerned, the only way that I was able to even touch this was through the ayahuasca. So yeah, how do I say thank you? I don't know. But you know what? You can keep going forward and stressed and, keep distracting into the future, or you can stop and go into the past and go and try to figure out who you are. Both of them suck. I mean, the future is scary, you're doing all these things to pretend, and going into all this shit sucks the big wiener. However, if you know, that itself is total fucking liberation. I don't care how dark this shit was, and it's been fucking awful and scary and yuck, and God knows it's been a fucking nightmare, but finally I know who the fuck I am, and that is brilliant. Because yeah, I might be pissed and I might see it and everything, but at least now I can integrate it, and it's not some hidden layer of energy, because it's energy, and I can continue to let it be released. And it's only because I trust implicitly this incredible plant medicine. Good luck. Bye.